Once upon a time, Greece was this tiny little set of islands that nobody really cared about, and the dominant player in the Mediterranean world were the Persians. Then, this guy called Alexander got born and conquered the Persians and conquered most of the known world and changed everything. The same thing happened right after the French Revolution. This guy called Napoleon took power, and it turned out he was like a really good military conqueror, and he just took over all of Europe. Historians like to argue about whether individuals can influence history, right? Some historians think that the actions of large groups of people will always matter more than the actions of one individual. But when you look at great military conquerors like Alexander and Napoleon, it's kind of hard to argue that individuals can't make a difference. Orson Scott Card's book Ender's Game is a story about basically an attempt to breed and train a great military conqueror from childhood. Ender's Game is set in a world where parents are only allowed to have 2 children. But the government looks at this one couple and says, they have great genetic stock, we're going to try and get them to breed our great military conqueror. And their first 2 attempts don't go well, right? The first child, Peter, is too cruel, and the second child, Valentine, is too kind. And so they're like, hey, do you want to have a 3rd kid? And they're like, yeah, sure, let's have a 3rd kid. That 3rd kid is called Ender, and the government looks at him and they're like, yeah, this is the guy we want to fight the aliens. The government takes Ender to this special school out in space where they basically try to make his life as unfair as possible. They try to make it so that the deck is stacked against him in everything that he wants to do. For example, in military stories, it's pretty much a cliche that the drill instructor always hates you, but for Ender, the drill instructor liked him and hated everybody else, and what that did is it made the other kids pick on Ender. The school has this like battle league that's kind of like a sports league where all the kids are put on teams and they do these mock battles against one another and then they keep track of them in the standings. And Ender is put on this team that's led by a guy called Bonzo who hates Ender. He thinks Ender's not ready to be in the battle league. He just says to Ender like, hey, don't get in the way, don't do anything. Which kind of sucks for Ender because how is he supposed to learn anything if he can't practice and he can't actually play in the games? But Ender makes friends with this girl who helps him practice, and he still finds a way to be useful in the games. Later on, they give Ender his own team to captain, and they give him the least experienced players possible. They give him the people who just got called up into battle school. And then they give him only a month and a half to prepare, where usually they have 3 months to prepare. And then they make him play every single day instead of once a week like most teams do. And Ender still finds a way to win game after game after game. Even when they make him fight against 2 different teams, he still finds a way to win. So how does Ender win unfair game after unfair game? He does so by being creative, coming up with new strategies that nobody's ever thought before, and kind of getting cheeky with the rules a little bit. For example, they have him play this video game where he has to, like this giant offers him 2 vases of stuff, and one of them is poison, and whichever one he chooses, if it's poison, then he loses. And he quickly finds out that they're both poison. Whatever he chooses, he loses. So, instead of choosing one of them, he just kills the giant. Same thing in battle school. They had teams of 40 guys, and they would divide those 40 people into 4 groups of 10 apiece. And then they would have those people do formations. This is something that everybody did without questioning it. Ender figured out that it was stupid, and he had his guys do completely different stuff. By not using formations and by giving his lieutenants more tactical freedom, he was way more flexible, and he could just pick the other teams apart. The lesson here is that you can win an unfair game by thinking outside the box and by changing the rules. At one point, Ender is talking to this guy Dink, who's his platoon commander, right? He's in charge of the little team within the team that Ender's a part of. And Ender asks him, like, hey, you're a really good commander, you know this stuff really well, how come they never put you in charge of a full team? And Dink is like, well, it's because, this whole thing is rigged, right? Like, I don't believe in it, I don't trust it. Like, we're made to fight these make-believe battles against each other, and we're told that we're each other's enemies, but really, the teachers are our real enemies. And there's kind of some truth to that, right? Like, the teachers are the ones messing with Ender's life. I mean, Ender is literally a 5-year-old kid who they took away from his parents, took into space, and subjected all these cruel science experiments to that they hadn't ever done before to anybody else. You can argue that, maybe the teachers had a good reason for doing it because, they need a commander to defeat the aliens because these aliens are going to destroy Earth if they get the chance. But at the same time, you see Ender over and over again, he just wants to be a kid, right? Like, he's sad, he's angry. Like, when he goes back to Earth, he stays there for 2 months and he's out on this boat that he built because he just doesn't want to do the thing that he's been chosen to do. Ender realizes that at a certain point he's going to have to defeat the aliens that he's fighting against, and so he starts studying them. And it turns out they're really beautiful creatures. Ender starts to have a lot of sympathy for them. You can't fight something without understanding it, and you can't understand something without loving it. To get Ender to actually fight these guys, the generals in charge have to pretend that the ultimate battle where he destroys their homeworld is just a training simulation. And then once Ender wins the training simulation, they tell him, like, oh wait, actually, surprise, that was the final battle. You just killed all these aliens. Ender feels super guilty about this, and the rest of the book is basically just him being depressed about it. And later in the book, he's given the opportunity to bring the aliens back to life, and he does it. Did we have to kill these aliens? Maybe, maybe not. You can argue that we did. It wasn't really clear that they were going to attack us again, but at the same time, they had attacked us in the past, and it's one of those situations where it's like better safe than sorry. At the same time, we'd like to be able to have respect for other intelligent life forms and treat them fairly and work with them instead of just fighting them all the time. In human history, when two uncontacted tribes discover each other, they usually start fighting each other, and then eventually they're able to make peace with each other and start cooperating with one another. And if we discover intelligent life out there in the universe, I hope that we can eventually start cooperating with them as well. Anyways, folks, thanks for watching Theo's Book Club. If you're new around here, my name's Theo. I make short videos like this one going over the big ideas in the books that I read so that you can decide, do I want to read these books for myself? If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. That tells YouTube, hey, this is a good video, we should show it to more people. I would appreciate that greatly because I just started this channel, I'm trying to grow it. You can also hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these book summary videos pop up in your feed. And until next time, have a great day, and remember, life's not fair, but you can still enjoy it.